With just a month to go before the local elections, the political landscape in the UK has shifted dramatically, and it's clear that the Labour Party, led by Keir Starmer, is in a free fall. A recent opinion poll shows Labour at a meagre 21%, its lowest support ever recorded by More in Common. This devastating result is more than just a temporary dip. It signals the long-term erosion of Labour's appeal and a shift in the public's allegiance toward the Tories and Reform UK. As the local elections approach, the situation is no longer just a matter of debate, it's a looming political crisis for the Labour Party. Keir Starmer's leadership was supposed to offer a clean break from the chaos of the Corbyn years. He promised a strong, united opposition that could stand up to the government while offering credible alternatives. Yet, instead of reviving the party, Starmer's leadership has suffocated it. Labour's nosedive in the polls is not a coincidence but a direct consequence of his inability to offer a compelling vision for the country. The spring statement, which was supposed to be Labour's chance to seize on the government's failures, has only highlighted Starmer's impotence. If anything, it has deepened Labour's already fragile position, exposing the party as out of touch and ineffective. The numbers speak for themselves. The Tories are leading at 26%, closely followed by Reform UK at 25%. Between them, the right-wing bloc has a commanding majority, a stark contrast to the abysmal 21% Labour now commands. And make no mistake, this is no accident. Labour has lost more than a third of its votes since the landslide general election victory last July. Starmer's failure to capitalise on the public's dissatisfaction with the government has left a vacuum that the Conservatives, alongside a resurgent Reform UK, are all too eager to fill. Some may argue that the split in the right-wing vote between the Tories and Reform UK could benefit Labour, but that's a dangerous assumption. The reality is that the combined right-wing vote is pushing 50%, a number that may ultimately render Labour's fortunes irrelevant. Even if Labour manages to secure a handful of seats, it will be insignificant in the context of a broader electoral landscape that is shifting away from them. The idea that Labour can simply rely on the fracturing of the right-wing vote to come out on top is a fantasy. The truth is, Labour is not the party of change. It is the party of stagnation, weighed down by weak leadership and an inability to respond to the pressing concerns of the electorate. Moreover, the rise of Reform UK cannot be dismissed as a mere sideshow. While many view it as a fringe party, Reform UK's increasing support signals a growing dissatisfaction with both Labour and the Tories. Nigel Farage's party is tapping into a deep well of frustration with the political establishment, one that both major parties have failed to address. Reform UK's appeal lies in its message of rejecting the status quo, something the public is increasingly embracing. In contrast, Labour appears stuck in a loop of bureaucratic infighting and policy failure, with no clear path forward. The reality is that Labour is caught in a vicious cycle, and Starmer's leadership is at the centre of it. He has become a figurehead for a party that has lost its way, unable to inspire or connect with voters. The promises of unity and renewal under his leadership have proven to be hollow. In fact, his leadership is proving to be a liability. Labour is no longer seen as a viable alternative to the Conservatives. It's seen as weak, directionless, and incapable of taking on the issues that matter most to the public. From the cost of living crisis to national security, the party's response has been tepid at best, leaving the electorate to wonder if Starmer's Labour can offer anything more than empty rhetoric. Let's be clear, Starmer's leadership has been an unmitigated disaster for Labour. The public has rejected his vision and his leadership. While Starmer dithers, the Tories and Reform UK are seizing the initiative, consolidating their hold on the right-wing vote. The local elections on May 1st will serve as a stark reminder that Labour is not just trailing, it's failing. If Starmer does not take drastic action now to reassert control of the party and offer a clear, bold vision for the future, Labour will find itself in the political wilderness for years to come. It's not just a poor opinion poll or a temporary dip in popularity, it's a crisis. A crisis that Labour can no longer ignore. If Starmer doesn't take swift action, the next month could mark the beginning of the end for Labour as a major political force in the UK. The voters have spoken, and unless Labour makes significant changes, it will continue its downward spiral. The electorate is moving on, and Labour is in danger of being left behind.